let's have a lesson and discussion on this work. Follow a lesson for free and just pick up all the tips and ideas from the video for free. But if you're interested, I do have a sheet music edition of all 25 etudes in Carcassi's Op.60, and there's a link for that in the description. Etude number 22 is a particularly challenging little piece, especially at faster tempos or to record. In terms of the actual piece itself, there's only one or two sections that are particularly awkward or challenging, but the difficulty in this particular work is just all the navigating of the fretboard. There's so much jumping around and there's so much movement happening at all times that the opportunity for error just presents itself on a regular basis. As I said, there's also a couple of pockets of quite challenging material to work on as well. So for me personally, the thing that I found difficult in this piece is just letting loose a little bit and being extroverted with the piece, because I felt when I was recording it, I had to hold back quite a bit because there's just so much navigating that as I let loose and raise the tempo, the opportunity for those little mistakes just started to really emerge. So for me, I think that I would have to work on this piece quite a bit to really let loose with it. That said, the tempo marking is just Allegretto. I don't think it's not intended to be blazingly fast or anything like that. But let's talk about a few things in this piece right off the bat. I think that his little dynamic indications are really important, and he has lots of accents. And I think that after the initial slur followed by descending or ascending arpeggio in this piece, that you are often supposed to relax a little bit. Relax here, relax here, relax here, relax. Each one tapers off a little bit, which really does help with the technique of the piece. If you're trying to play them all evenly, like it's like Bach or something like that, or not Bach, but just play every single note crystal clear and even and loud, it gets even more challenging. Adding a little bit of that musicality and phrasing to it allows you to present those group of notes as one gesture and just back off from each individual note a little bit. So it's good both musically, but also helps technically. Of course, practicing this piece, you can just take each figure and loop it and make sure that you can play it. Maybe not loop that one, but just practice each group just on its own, making sure you can play it cleanly. So going through the whole piece like that and ironing it out, I think, is your first step. Then there's a couple of right hand things to discuss too, just to make the piece that much more challenging. But there's tons of ways that you could finger the right hand in this particular piece. The piece is quite advanced, so I'm assuming that if you're playing the piece, you've already worked on lots of stuff before and you have some idea of what your fingering would be like. But I'll talk about it a little bit, because if I wrote in every single right hand fingering for this piece, it would be a nightmare to follow. It would be so impossible. But the general idea is to alternate your fingers as best you can, even down through some of those arpeggios. But I have notated it at the beginning, and I think it's important. So I'm using M, then A, M, I, P, M, A, M, I, P. And I do the same thing here. M, A, M, I, P. M, A, M, I, P. Using that same fingering for the first two measures there really just helps keep things codified and pattern oriented, helping simplify something that could be awkward otherwise. Later on in the piece, I mainly do alternation of the three fingers, throwing in the thumb just when I reach a low note. Like even in measure 5 there. Thumb, I, M, I. I'll just throw the thumb in and then continue with I, M. just as a bottom arrival note. Same thing later on in measure 9. Thumb, 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 thumb. So it's kind of just planning out that, maybe one note at the bottom of the texture would get the thumb. And in measure 9 and 10, that just means the last note of each measure, because that those descending lines just end up on the lowest 6th string. Thumb followed by a jump to the highest string. So that just makes sense to do the thumb on the last note and then jump up with your fingers. But you're going to the slur does help, but it is a little bit awkward traversing all those strings. But there's so many of them, and each one can be so different that writing in like your exact fingering for each one would be a pretty intense task. And I think it would be hard to follow anyway. So you just want to become comfortable going through those lines, alternating your fingers, and then throwing that thumb in just on a few of those notes. Okay, now let's just talk about the first 2 measures. The first 2 measures are probably the most challenging, and just because of this one figure. This is fine, of course. But then, this figure is a little bit challenging. I've decided to go 2, 3. That way 4 is free to get that upper note. Most people that have seen it have played it differently. They will play it with the 4th finger. 3, 4, and they just jump. Which is it's a tough leap to go from there to there during 16th notes. But taking the phrasing into consideration, it can work. So if you feel like doing that, that's a much more comfortable reach. I decided to do the uncomfortable reach with 2, 3, so that 4 can just easily grab that top note. And then again here. That's my solution to the issue. Measure 2 there can give people a lot of trouble and discourage them from the piece, but you just have to practice it in isolation and get comfortable with it. And just remember to do that tapering dynamic on each one so that the lower notes don't get so much emphasis and you can just glide through them. And codifying the right hand just takes another complication out of that. M, M, A, M, A, M, A. Okay, we'll do a walkthrough of the piece now. Like I said, it is a challenging piece. There's a lot of figuration to go through, so you just have to go through each one and work it out. Don't forget the dynamics of just going a little soft. And you can grow through those arpeggios. So when I reach the bottom of that figure after measure 6, I go thumb, 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 thumb. Just using those double thumb strokes to get through all 6 strings of those chords. It's also a funny line there. Where you kind of noodle your way down from 5th position to 4th to 3rd to 2nd, all in one line there. works out really well. Open, get the G. I found this next section the most challenging just because it just so many notes and they're weaving around so much. What I recommend is that you really make a lot of his emphasis of the first slur and then back away. He has an accent on it too. Here, 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 here. You know, what you'll find is at faster tempos, it takes the emphasis away of playing so many little tiny 16th notes, but instead just puts the emphasis on that one figure, that one slur, and then you just kind of get through the rest of the notes as a gesture. Concentration-wise, that's much easier than thinking about like, I must play each note, you know, and being concerned about each note. That's too difficult. You need to just focus on one thing and play through the gesture. Playful. There's nothing awkward here, just lots of navigating, right? What did I do there? Same thing here, just lots of notes. Nice little voice exchanges. Love this moment. I do a little bit of a rit here. It starts again. Bar. It's different at the end. Be a little bit careful there that you make sure you go up a fret to C. I ruined a couple of takes of the recording in there because I get like flustered and then I play like B, but obviously that's wrong. So just be careful that you go up a fret at the end there to C. Challenging little work, lots of things to work on. I definitely recommend that you make sure that you're at the level to play this piece. I don't think this piece will do you much benefit if you're not at the level to play it. It'll just cause lots of frustration. That said, you know, even if you weren't going to play the piece from start to finish at like a faster tempo, practicing each individual arpeggio group or gesture here is really beneficial to your technique and a really nice exploration of playing across all 6 strings in this texture. Lots of things to think about in terms of the right hand, although conceptually speaking, we're just alternating our fingers, and when there's a jump, we play the last note with our thumb. So in many ways, it might seem like it's complicated in the right-hand fingering, but in another way, like use the next available free finger. So don't repeat fingers, just use the available next finger, and then throw the thumb in at the very bottom of the arpeggio. And then it's like conceptually, it's quite simple. Opportunity for hiccups, though, do exist, and I even found myself sometimes like repeating the thumb on some of the low notes, which at slower tempos does work just fine. You can do that. I just don't like doing it at faster tempos. But no, at slow tempos, it would work just fine. We're used to doing that. At faster tempos, though, I don't like doing that. I like to just keep alternating all the time in the right hand to make sure that two notes don't sound different than another two notes. So just keeping things alternating really helps that. I could talk about that for ages. I could talk about this piece for ages, but at the end of the day, it is an advanced kind of level etude, so make sure you're ready for it. And then just enjoy it and get comfortable with each group one at a time before you piece it all together. It's not that awkward, actually. It's just when you start raising the tempo, there's just lots of opportunity for mistakes. So what that means is that you need to let it gestate, and you need to work on it slowly for a really long time.